In the last few classes, we have successfully completed how to create a partition and how to build your file systems, then how to mounting file systems. And today I will explain what is a virtual memory. So this is another important concept in the Linux. So virtual memory also be called as swap space. So in Linux, a swap space is used as scratch space from the system. Scratch space from the system. Swap space is used when the amount of physical memory is full. Swap space is a space on hard disk which is a substitute of a physical memory. So already you know that, guys, at the time of installation, we have specified the swap space twice of the RAM size. I mean double size of the RAM. So even if you don't specify the word swap space at the time of installation, the system automatically consider swap space based on existing RAM size. But in case if you forget to assign swap space at the time of installation, then how to implement swap space after installation? I mean now how to implement swap space. So what is the purpose of the swap space? To improve our system performance. To improve system performance. But remember, every system running with physical memory. When the physical memory is low, then swap space used as scratch space. That means it will be act as a physical memory. That's why swap space is a space on hard disk which is a substitute of physical memory. Then what are the recommended system swap space? Amount of the RAM in the system, like less than or equal to 2 GB, you will keep 2 times the amount of RAM. For example, your VM running with 1 GB, keep the swap space 2 GB. Your VM running with 2 GB, keep the swap space is 4 GB. But when the RAM size is 2 GB to 8 GB, then keep it equal to the amount of the RAM. That means 2 GB means 4 GB, 3 GB means 4 GB, or like that. But when the RAM size is 8 GB to 64 GB or 64 GB, at least 4 GB is required. So based on the what recommended swap space, remember everyone, the maximum swap space is 4 GB only. The maximum swap space is 4 GB only. Right. So now in Linux environment, we have two types of partitions. I mean two types of swap spaces. One is swap partition method and second one is swap file method. Swap partition method and swap file method. So let me explain. First, swap partition method. So what is the swap partition? Swap space is a space on hard disk which is substitute of physical memory. I mean it is occupied the what space from the hard drive only. It is located on hard drives which have a slower access time than a physical memory. Swap space can be a dedicated swap partition. I mean compared to swap file, swap partition is recommended. Swap partition is recommended. So the meaning is you will create a one partition with 2 GB or 1 GB or maximum 4 GB. Then that partition will be act as a virtual memory or swap memory. Now I'll show you practically how to implement swap partition. So once again, what is the use of swap space? It improves the what system performance. When the physical amount of RAM is full, then swap will be act as a memory. Remember this point. Now, how to implement the swap space? So first, let me take, first to verify the what existing swap space. So already the existing swap space is just run the what free space -h option. Then already swap space is 4 GB is running because my memory is already 2 GB, but double size of the 2 GB means 4 GB I have specified at the time of installation. Or free space, you want to check the size with megabytes, M is the option. So this is called what 1742, and now the swap space is 4095. But remember what I'm saying here, if you forget to assign swap space, because in the real environment, lot of servers are running without swap space. Then how people to implement swap space for the servers? So this is the what practical lecture, how to implement swap space manually. So first let me take one partition with 2 GB. So fdisk, for example, just assume my system running with 1 GB RAM. So that's why I will create your swap space 2 GB. Okay, just example, maybe your system running with 2 GB, you will take 4 GB. Okay, maximum 4 GB is the what? Hard drive space. Then fdisk /dev nvme 0 and 1. Now we are creating partition on the hard drive 1. So already existing partitions are 6. Now let me create the another new partition. The seventh one is with 2 GB size. So now we are creating seventh partition, the last sector value plus 2 GB, because we are creating the what swap space with 2 GB. Enter. So now by default here observe all partitions are Linux file systems, but the partition 3 is a swap file system. The partition 3 is a swap file system. The person easily to identify which one is the swap partition, because the type of the file system is swap here. Then same way, how to change the partition? If you print again one more, see the seventh partition is ready with 2 GB. But I want to change this partition type because I want to identify the seventh partition as a swap file system. So we need to change the what? This file system name. This device name. So how to change the device names? Partition names. We can use the T option. We can use the what T option. So now which partition number you want to change? I want to change the what seventh partition ID. Then enter. So partition type is, let me take the what swap. Or you don't know what are the values, then we will type L is the option to list all ID values. L is the option to list ID values or partition names. Then if I enter, see that EFI system, MBR partition table, BIOS boot, and a Sony boot partition. So like we have different ID values. These are not related to Linux only. All are Unix, Sun Solaris, IBM X, all are the what same. So now here the ninth one is Linux swap. Ninth one is Linux swap. So let me change the word. The ID value type is swap. So please quit the first queue. Then again back to the partition ID value swap. Then enter. See that change type of partition. Linux file system to Linux swap. Linux file system to Linux swap. Then again to print P, what is the partition name here? Partition 7 is a Linux swap file system. I mean Linux swap file, swap partition. But sir, is it mandatory to change the what swap partition name? No, it is not mandatory. So just like it is a label name, I mean the person easily to identify. Okay, the seventh partition is a swap partition. So now, okay, the seventh partition act as a RAM space like. Now, how to save the file? W. Then the first party, the partition 7 successfully created. But after creating partition, we will use part prompt to update to kernel with nvme0 n1 enter. So now partition successfully updated. Now we will check lsblk command. So now partition 7 is ready. Or you can use fdisk space -l option. So then partition 7 is the swap file system. I mean swap file system, swap partition. Now this is the first step to create a partition with required virtual memory size. You want 1 GB means 1 GB, 2 GB means 2 GB, 3 GB means 3 GB, 4 GB means 4 GB. Maximum size is 4 GB only. And what is the second option? We need to format a device. That means to build a file system. See, the steps are common as usual. In the last two classes, what I said, create a partition, like format a file system, and then mounting a file system. So same way, we have created one partition with 2 GB. Then how to make a file system? You know, mkfs dot xfs is the what? Regular file system. I mean, you want to store the data inside the device, then we will use xfs is a what? Device file system. But here we are using swap file system. Swap file system means you will not write any data in the file system because it will be act as a memory. So that's why the file system name is mkswap. The command is mkswap. To build a file system means swap file system means mkswap is the command. Then -f, where to build this file system? On nvme0 n1 partition 7. Then if I enter, now setting up swaps version size 2 GB successfully created. And even UUID also ready. So now what is the third step? We can mount the file system in the etc fstab file permanently. So with the help of UUID, we can mount the word file system, or we can use the word partition name. You will mount the word file system. But generally, the very best idea is UUID because devices are very fastly. So that's why I will mount the word file system in the etc fstab file. Now let me use the UUID value of the swap device, then space. There is no mount point because I told you this partition is for swap space. That's why mount point name is none. Then what file system is here? I mean in this device, swap is the file system name. Then as usual, defaults 0, 0. Now my swap space is ready. Then save the file, run the command systemctl daemon reload option. After reload, just run the command again, mount -a. So now successfully mounted. But how do you know that? If you go for /etc proc swaps, if you run this command, then it displayed, see that partition 3 only visible because this partition 3 is a installation time partition. But recently we have created partition 7, it's not 3. So now how to update partition 7? Even if you run free space -m, only 3 is running, 4 GB only is running. Then how to update the new partition? then first we need to turn off existing swap. Swap of -a to turn off existing swap. A for all to turn off all swaps. Then again to turn on all swaps. Then the new swap successfully updated. How do you know that? If you run again free space -m command, previously we have 4 GB, then 4 GB plus the recent size is 2 GB, then it will display 6 GB. So now what is the size of the swap? 6 GB. Okay, so this is the way to implement the what swap space. And even in the cat space proc file system, so now 3 and 7 both are visible, but lowest value is the highest priority. And one more important thing, even the status of the swaps, swap on -s option also is there. Swap on -s. See that the status of the two swaps, partition 3 and partition 7. Now two swaps are running. But don't raise the question again. Sir, already you said it is 4 GB only, but it is displaying 6 GB. If you forget the first one, then only implement like this. But already I have specified the swap space at the time of installation. Now, if you forget the installation time, then how to implement the swap space manually? That means after installation means this is the process. Then how to turn off your required swap. For example, I don't want the third swap or seventh swap. Then we can use swap off /dev, then partition 7. Now again the swap is running 1 3. I mean that means third one with 4 GB. You want again turn on the swap, then what to do? Here it is called what? Swap on is the command to turn off the swap. Then again it's running with 6 GB. This is the proper way to managing swap file systems in the environment. So mostly weekly two or three times you will implement swap spaces in the Linux servers, because thousands of servers running in the environment. Definitely some servers running with low memory. Then what is the solution to load your applications properly? Then we need to replace the physical RAMs, or temporarily you will increase the swap spaces. So then how to implement the swap spaces for the server? This is the process. Or even after swap space, the system not running properly, I mean even the system running with low memory, then definitely people will replace the RAM sizes, physical RAM sizes. Right. So next important thing, the second method is file swap, guys. What is the second one? File swap. That is called swap file. The size of the new swap file in megabytes and multiply by 1024 to determine the number of blocks. So what I'm saying here, partition swap is that. I mean, to create a partition, that partition dedicated to swap. But no need any partition. Even we can create a file. That file act as a swap also. So generally, for creating files means cat is the command, touch is the command, like that. But here swap file creation process is different. It is not text file. It is not regular file. It is a swap file. So now, example, the block size of a 64 MB. Swap file is 65536. What I'm saying here, each block size is, for example, in the hard disk, your block size is 1024. You are looking for swap size is 64 MB. Then 64 MB into 1024 blocks, it is equivalent to what? 65536. That is called count value. So this is the different process. How to create a swap file, I will show you practically. See. For example, to create a swap space, I mean, partition method is completed. Now the second method is file method. So generally DD is the command, disk to disk. So in the disk to disk, first you will specify the what input value. That is called what input file, IF. By default, the file initially starts with 0 /db/0 space OFO, output file. Then where to create a swap file? In the root location, in the slash location, in the TMP location, or home location. Generally, people will create in OPT location. Then my swap file name is swap file. So now here the file will be created in the OPT location. This is called what output file. Then space, what is the block size? I mean within the hard drive, the block size is by default 1024. Then space, count. Count is nothing but block size into, I told you, block size into how much swap space you want. That means 1 GB na, 2 GB na, 3 GB na, 4 GB na. So 1 GB means, for example, 1000 bytes. So 1000 into 1024. Or 2 GB means 1024 into 2000. You want to create 4 GB swap space, then 4000 into 1024. So that is called what count value. So I told you example, you want to create a swap space with 64 MB, then 64 into block size 1024. Then it is called what 65,536. So same way, it is a nearby 65 lakhs, 10 lakh 65,000 something. It is what value one. I'm looking for 1 GB swap space. So that's why I will write approximately 10 lakh value. Okay, this is the count value 10 lakh. Then if I enter, then swap space, swap file will be create. I mean, it's being to create now. Now, so now the swap file is successfully created with 1 GB. That is called what? 10 lakh 24 something. It is called what approximate value. That's why it is called what not 1 GB exactly, 977 MIB copied. So now one swap file is successfully created. And don't forget it, by default block size is 1024. 1024 into your swap file size. 1 GB means 1024 into 1000. 2 GB you want it, then 1024 into 2000. That is called what swap file counting. Then second important thing, where is the swap file? The swap file is by default in the OPT. The file name is swap file. See that the swap file is created in the location of OPT 10240000. It is called what bytes. Fine. And now the very important thing, we need to change file permissions for this swap file. So one or only to read the swap file, but for group people, others, better to disable the what even read also. Then how to change the permissions? So you will keep chmod 600 because the owner root can read and write off the swap file, but group people and others do nothing. So that's why in the OPT keep the what swap file. So right now the file running with read write for the owner only. This is the what second important thing. And now what is the third step? To create a swap file system. How to create a swap file? Again, mkswap -f. In previously we have a partition. Now it is called what? Under OPT, the file name is swap file. So now we are building swap and the swap file. Now the swap file version is successfully created. Then it is called what? 1 GB. So now again uuid is there. Instead of uuid, you will take the what file name also. So let me copy, and then in the slash etc fstab file, again you will copy paste it. Okay, instead of this uuid, I will go for new uuid value. Okay, again remaining things are same. Save the file, then again new changes in the etc fstab file, systemctl daemon reload option, then enter. Perfect. Then mount space -a, no issues in the fstab file. Then again we can check free space -m, only 6 GB is there. That recent 1 GB is not updated, not it. So then what to do? The first swap of -a. First you can turn off all swaps. Swap of -a. Swap of cannot find the device for the uuid of this value. I mean, where is the uuid? This is 3679. Correct. uuid 9093. It is this. Is there any mistake of this swap first? This is a perfect ID value. 9093 and everything 498. So I will go again in the etc fstab file. The uuid value 9093 swap file system. Okay, it's correct. But let me check swap on -a. Then if I run free space -m, still 6 GB only, that 1 GB is not updated. So I think in the file based UUIDs are not working. Then instead of this UUID, I will go for directly that file name. What is the file name? OPT swap file. Okay, then save the file. Again, swap of first system daemon reload, and then swap of -a, then swap on -a. Then we will check it free space -m. Perfect. Now 7 GB is updated. I mean 1 GB has been updated. So now this is the proper ID, and now BLK ID of this OPT swap file. So the ID is UUID is correct, but system doesn't consider the what that particular UUID. I mean this is the what correct UUID value, and EB65E7273679. Okay, maybe file based doesn't consider the what UUID values. So now keep it the what you are directly file names in the fstab file. But remember, in the real environment, partition based only recommended, not file based. But sometimes people will create a what file based, because already partitions are updated, but there is no free partitions. Then people will do with like it is called what file based, but mostly partition based only, not file based. So now you can check it like swap on -s option. So how many are working? How many working? 3, 7, and 5. So totally 3 are working, and 2 are partition based, and 1 is file based. 2 are partition based, 1 is file based. Okay, you want to turn off any particular swap, so then swap off. Okay, I want to turn off the NV partition 3, then enter. Now how much swap is running now? Only 3 GB, because that 7 is 2 GB. This one is 1 GB. So 4 GB has been disabled. So we want to again turn on that. Then temporarily we can turn off and turn on, same like this process. Okay, again free-m 7 GB has been updated. Then how to delete a swap in case you don't want swap file system? Then first people what to do, remove the entries in the fstab file first. Remove the entries in the fstab file. So now let me remove the word file based first. And now save the file. Save the file. And entries are modified. That's why systemctl daemon reload option. And now mount -a is the option. If you check like swap off -a, then again swap on -a. So then free-m only 6 GB is run. And finally, just remove the file in the rm-i in the opt swap file. So this is the way to remove the swap file. So you want to delete a partition swap. Then how to delete a partition swap? Again, in the /etc fstab file. So remove this entry first, fstab file entry. Then what you have configured, everything we can delete it. So etc fstab file, again systemctl daemon reload, and then run the command mount -a. But remember, first we can check it free-m, still 6 GB is running. Then what to do? First swap off -a, then swap on -a. Then now it's running with, I think, 4 GB. Then how to delete a partition? In the /div nvme0 n1. So delete a file system. That means 7th one. Then save it. How to update a table? Part pro /dev nvme0 n1. So now everything is perfect. Then check it lsblk. We have only 6 partition. There is no swap space. Still my swap space is running with 4 GB. This is called what? Virtual memory concept in the real environment. So mostly you will get it partition based swap only, but very rare case you will get file based. So we need to implement multiple times that particular virtual memory concept or swap memory concept. Then the another important concept today, which is called ACLs, guys. The another important concept, ACLs, access control lists. So what is mean by ACLs? Somebody is calling ACLs means file system securities. File system security with ACLs. So how to protect your file systems? Now, guys, files and directories have permissions sets for the owner, group, and other for the system. However, these permissions sets have some limitations. The meaning is, now see, first let me explain. If I go for any one particular file, okay, my file name is, already you know that the file name is sample, for example. In the sample file, user level permissions are read write, group level permissions are read only, other level permissions are again read only. But if I set others read and write, for example, if I set others read and write, then what is the meaning? Except root user and root group, everyone can access read and write. Okay, let me take another file already we have changed the word group names and everything. Okay. So already we have a file name Java. So Java means one RAM read and write, and group sports read only, and others except ROM and sports, others execute only. But others means maybe 100 people are there, 200 people are there, 300 people are there, multiple people are there, but everyone can execute. So these are the what? Limitations. For example, in the others, Raju is there, Sarah is there, Max is there, Smith is there, Jay is there. So like we have multiple people, but everyone can access execute only, execute of the Java file. Now ACL's benefit is to set individual permissions, advanced permissions. So from the others, Raju can read and write of the Java file. Sarah can read, write, execute of the Java file. Max only read of the Java file. So how to set individual permissions even from the others? Generally, others permissions already execute, but from the others, I want to set individual privileges. That is called what? ACL's concept. So already we have basic level permissions, but ACLs are advanced level permissions. So different permissions can be configured for different users and groups. Different permissions can configured for different users and groups. So here remember, basic permission sets have limitations. User means user only, group means group only, others execute means all others execute only. But from that others, I want to divide multiple permissions again. Then we will use ACLs. That's what different permissions can be configured for different users and groups. So in that case, there are two types of ACLs, generally ACLs and default ACLs. But every file has default ACLs, but these are the what optional. But we will implement only access control list ACLs, files and directories. So for this, we have two important tools. One is setfsel command, and second one is getfsel command. So remember, setfsel command is only for assigning ACLs. Assigning ACLs. So you want to assign ACLs, setfsel is the command. You want to verify the ACLs, getfsel is the command. Getfsel is the command. The syntax is setfsel -m for modification. Write the rules here and writing the what file system name here. Okay. Now let me explain practically how to implement the what ACLs. See, I have already some users in the etc. Where is the users? In the past WD file. ABC, Yoshit, Mahi, Max, Rohit, Jay, Ramu, Raju, Ram. We have different users. Now I want to verify first existing ACLs for the file system. So what is the command? Getfsel. Then before that, let me check the file system names. Yes, we have AWS data is there. Okay, I want to apply for this. So getfsel AWS data is my mount point. I mean that file system. So already for this AWS data, user read write execute. User means root, and group also read write execute, and others also read write execute. Others also read write. I mean everyone running with read write to execute. Now what I'm saying, from the others, setfsel -m modify for the user level. The user ROM or user ROM read only of the AWS data. Read only of the AWS data. Then if I enter, so now permissions has defined to AWS data file system. So actually one are root, group name all root. All users are others, but all others read, write, execute, but ROM only to read. ROM only to read. So let me confirm. Go for su hyphen username ROM. Then what is the file system name? It is called what? AWS data. See that permission denied because we don't have even X permissions to enter the what inside the directory for the user ROM. Then if you try to log in with another account, for example, Raju. So now try to access the what? Raju AWS data. He can because Raju has read, write, execute. ROM only read of this AWS data. So now how to assign ACLs for the multiple users? I mean, you want to set the privileges for the multiple users. Then again, set up ACL -m like user. First now ROM user. Now read and execute. Don't write. Enter the directory and read the content and don't modify the what content. Comma. Now user again. Raju. Now read only of the AWS data. So now I have been changed. How do you know that? If you run get FACL AWS data, see this ROM read execute. Raju read only. But remaining all users will follow the what? Default permissions. Now let me log in again. User ROM. Now ROM can enter the what direct because ROM has read and execute. So now add the what content also. But we cannot modify the what content because you don't have any permissions, write permission. That's why permission denied for the write. But now Raju cannot access. I mean, cannot enter the what inside the what directory of AWS data because Raju has the read only. Now Raju has denied. This is the proper way to managing advanced ACL securities. Now you want to remove the permissions. You want to remove the permissions. So let me remove the permissions. The permission is set FACL. I want to remove the permissions for the user Raju. Then in the user level, we can use the word X option. X means to remove the permissions. So don't write the word any permissions in the permissions field. Then enter. So permissions has been designed. I mean removed. If you run get FACL again, get FACL, then AWS data, enter. See that ROM has still read execute, but we don't have any Raju user here. So, but now Raju read write execute because Raju now in others. Raju now in others. Okay. This is the first important thing. How to assign advanced permissions. Sometimes people what to do, they want to, these per AWS data has multiple user permissions. Sir, I want to remove all permissions at a time. Then we will use B option to remove all permissions for the AWS data. So now there is no even see this ROM user permissions. So B is nothing but to remove all permissions for the all users. Okay, for example, this AWS data for the ROM, for the Raju, for Jay and everyone. So you want to remove all permissions at a time, B. Individually means X is the option. Okay. And then the last one is how to set up ACLs for the group level. How to set up ACLs for the group level. Again, the same process, set up ACL for the user, I mean, instead of here user group. So let me add the what? The group name is sports. So now sports people can read and write, or sports people can read and execute. Multiple groups means we can use the word multiple groups also. Then enter, it's added. Then get FACL, then AWS data. See this sports group people read and execute, but don't write. And existing group of the root can read, write, execute. The root people can read, write, execute. But sports people only read, execute of this AWS data. So this is called what? Managing permissions, advanced level permissions through ACLs. So basic file permissions, advanced file permissions. Advanced means advantage is individual. So filtering, more filtering. So now, for example, nowadays everyone accessing the what YouTube content, or maybe it's the Prime videos or Hotstar videos or lot of things. But I want to set one user can download. But basic permissions means everyone can everyone can watch only, cannot download. But one user can download. Then you can come to the what ACL. With basics we cannot. I want to set user A read only. I want to set user B write only. I want to set user C execute only. The same resource, but people can manage multiple things. Can access the what with multiple resources. I mean the same resource, multiple waves. So this is called what? ACLs, file system security with ACLs, access, control, list option. And so far, we have successfully completed in the disk management concept. So once again, with help of fdisk command, we have created some partitions and verify the what? Your volumes. Or instead of fdisk, people to use lsblk also. Then second one is to creating file system mkfs.xfs, the latest file system xfs. Some people is maybe people are asking ext family means ext4 is the latest. So that is called what? File system building. Then after building file system, we have created mounting file system. Then after mounting, you can use the word unmount file system. And after unmounting file system, we have used lsyof command, and also we have used fuser command to finding who are mounted and everything. And then today, again the same concept, the extra command is mkswap and swap on and swap off commands. And finally, get FACL, and set FACL commands. So in the in the last two classes and today class, we have successfully completed on these commands. Okay, right. So in the next class, I will explain RAID concept. Actually, in early days, RAID is important, but nowadays Red Hat syllabus also has been terminated RAID. Nowadays, no need any hardware RAIDs, I mean software RAIDs. But what are the benefits and everything, I will explain in tomorrow lecture, because theoretically must to knowledge of the what RAID everyone. Okay, tomorrow I will cover the what RAID concept. Thank you. And questioning time, if you have any queries, and please ask me.